So welcome to Gold Digging. It's a new weekly show where I try to unearth some golden nuggets from LinkedIn's leading marketing experts. It's going to be designed for bite-sized content, so we're going to try and keep it to 5 minutes, which means that you haven't got to do what I do and try and save all your content till lunchtime. When you see it in the feed, watch it instantly, and hopefully it's going to be very topical. We're going to challenge and we're going to really ask those really tough questions. I'm very lucky enough today because I have the legend, the PR icon, the grey hair maestro, Richard Medley, who has actually been managing director of a lot of PR agencies, a lot of comms agencies. I've now believed that you're running the independent circuits, you're sort of advising a lot of boards, you're working with a lot of brands. So I'd really love to know in sort of 5 minutes or less, what's getting your goat at the moment?
Afternoon, Brett. Well, I think there's a principle to start with, which, the joy of going into a recession means I really believe that brands, agencies, everybody out there needs to over communicate rather than pull back and go quiet. And I think that's a lesson that came very much out of lockdown and COVID, when I think those brands that got a bit more human, a bit more engaging, are those that did well and continue to do well when things went back to normal. But as you say, things are getting my goat. So the principle here, I think, is to do this, you need to champion visibility, you need to have strong opinions, and you need to have a kind of a strong vein of storytelling running through what you're doing. At the moment, there's no more classic example of messing all those three things up than our dear Prime Minister this week. I mean, visibility, when you've got a headline appearing in the papers where it's just her picture and the word missing, question mark above it, in a broadsheet, you're just focusing on fighting for your career now, rather than fighting for your beliefs.
If we take that back a level, right, because obviously it's very easy for people to respond to the Prime Minister, but the same thing's happening at brand level, right? When I look at any publication, the marketing manager or the market director, when they're quoted in these publications, it's really bland and really sort of
totally, yeah, and this is the issue. I think people confuse messages with storytelling. So without dominating the trust thing, she wasn't around, so she messed up on that. When you do hear her this morning talking on BBC local radio, she's stringing a load of corporate messages together. That's not opinion. It's not storytelling. It's no flow, and you end up in a kind of sea of the bland. And if you put a story out as a business or an agency, and you're proud of kind of effectively the dull bit, which is what you're doing, or your product, or your MPD, the interesting bit, theory, is when you can bring that to life. That's the opinion, that's the commentary, that's the colour. And yet so many times you see people going, oh, I'm super delighted to be launching this. I'm really pleased that this is happening. Who gives a shit? Really, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? What it should come down to is the why, the insight, why you're being disrupted, why people should care about what you have to say. And that's missing too much when it comes to, really realising the value of opinion in the world rather than kind of platitudes.
And whose fault is this? Is it the businesses, the marketing managers, brand managers? Is it you guys, the PR agencies and the PR support, or is it just that the audience doesn't really care much what you say? What's the reason? That
I think it's a combination. Again, to do the parallel between politics and brands, at the moment, I don't know whether Truss's advisors are telling her what to say or whether she's running her own path, but she's getting it wrong. And if her advisors strongly believe enough in what they should be saying, they should be pushing it harder and pointing out why she should be saying the right thing rather than the wrong thing. When it comes to brands telling stories, I think PR people often deprioritize that interesting bit. They're too focused on the core intro, the first line, the product news, and they forget that the only bit that's going to stand out is the people news, the opinion, the colour. And for me, any story is not just about talking around, what you're launching for that moment. It's about building the spokesperson, the brand owner as the expert, the commentator, the person who the media can call in the future because they're interesting. They're going to have a view. And sometimes people hold back and be conservative. I'm dealing with people at the moment as clients who are worried they're going to give away trade secrets or worried they're going to rock the boat. Rock the boat. You aren't actually going to kind of create any kind of seismic activity, but you've got to be disruptive and challenging to be original. Otherwise, you're fitting into this copycat boat. And I think a lot of agencies have this problem because if you look at any website, from any agency, we all talk about being creative, passionate, dedicated, award-winning. There is zero differential. So we talk about doing a good creative game and great end work, but we don't actually put that effort into our own story. And I think therefore we miss the value of kind of bringing opinions across when we're starting to speak on behalf of other people too. We're focused on the end work, the ad, the product, and we miss the kind of interesting bit that kind of surrounds that.
How do we do that though? Because, for example, you know that maybe I say what needs to be said. That doesn't always, that's not always what I would say is viable. People are scared to buy that from me. Sometimes you sit there and go, if I buy into Brett, I know I'm buying into a challenge that I'm not necessarily up for. So is there an angle that maybe someone like myself is too challenging? Is it about finding the sweet spot, or should you just believe in what you believe in and say it when it needs to be said?
Yeah, it's about finding the right fit. I mean, not every client fits every agency. Otherwise, why would they change year on year and find someone else? It is about chemistry. It's about trusting the people you're going to work with. And I think, we also fall back into kind of the bad old ways of agencies present credentials. Look how great we are. Everyone can do a great credentials document. And if you're buying an agency based on what you see there, you're missing the whole value of sitting down and having a conversation first. Find that level of challenge you're right with. So your brands are those brands who want to challenge. That's where you fit. You're not going to fit into a corporate structure where you have to play by the game. So that's not what we should go after.
And take it back to, so this is obviously bite-sized content for LinkedIn. And to your comment about storytelling, it seems that LinkedIn has gone into sort of overdrive of really sort of awful content of those that are jumping on the bandwagon, sort of making stuff up, versus those that are just trying to say stuff to annoy you. And just, there's no genuine voices on LinkedIn that I enjoy reading at the moment. Is that a sort of a problem that's manifesting from the challenges you say?
Yeah, I think there are a few voices you say that stand out, and I think it takes effort to get posts right, and I think sometimes we kind of rush things through or do the obvious. So a recent example for me was the Patagonia guy who's giving away all his profits. Admirable, but the number of people who jumped on the bandwagon and said, "This is great. There are lessons to be learned from here." End of point. But what are the lessons to be learned from here? What are you going to do? You're championing this guy as being an expert. Wow, what a role model. Are you giving away part of your money? No. What are you thinking other clients should do? You're not saying it. You're just jumping on that easy way of getting coverage. Real traction takes effort. If you're doing well enough and your pipeline is healthy enough as a kind of business generator to kind of not put that effort in, well, congratulations. But for most people, less is more effort, more thinking, get that story right, craft the post, and you're going to have more traction.
You talk about
some posts, though, and I think you've had this problem sometimes, is you don't know who's looking at your posts, and that's a challenge because a lot of people are lurkers, and just because you haven't got high engagement levels on your post doesn't mean it's not working. Make a point, make people think behind the scenes. If you stick to your beliefs and drive that, the reward should come. It's not all about engagement and the like.
Is it true about visibility though? So you sort of mentioned being visible and stuff. And for me, I remember a conversation, my wife came in and said, "Have you posted anything out there about Elizabeth's death? You really should." And I said, actually, I really shouldn't, because I'm seeing a backlash of, why are you saying this? Because it's not appropriate. I don't need to say anything to have felt sorry for her death. She was 96. She lasted a lifetime and she did great things. But was it good or bad brands actually sort of jumping on the bandwagon to literally say, all these lovely things about the Queen, or was that well received, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was a mix. For me, the ones that kind of did it right were those that talked to their teams. And if their teams felt we want to say something, okay, we'll say something. And that felt involving, engaging, and genuine. And if you'd say, everyone here expresses our concerns because, great. If you're the kind of, Kebab Week Awards who came out and said something as well, really? What are you adding? Are you making a point here that people who work for the Kebab Awards really care, or are you just going for that kind of quick clickbait? So I think it comes down to the tone of what you say, the subtlety of the messaging, and knowing that if you do it for the right reasons coming from your heart and your team want you to say it, that was fine. But the speed of which some people did it, it was just, absolute bandwagoning.
So to wrap up, basically we know what's got your goat. How would you put it right? If someone came to you and said, "Richard, I agree with everything you're saying. I need to pick your brain. What should I be doing?"
Okay, 3 words, I think. Your mission should be to be useful, generous, or helpful. If your content is doing those things, if your offer is doing those things, if the things you're trying to say in commentary and the storyteller is doing those things, then you're hitting the right mark. If what you're saying isn't against those words, then you're probably falling back into sea of bland and self-interested.
Amazing. So we're going to wrap up. You are my first ever guest on Gold Digging. Congratulations. I think people are going to enjoy what you said.
What do I get?
You'll get a gift in the post.
Yeah, okay.
Very little, I imagine. But obviously, you've seen how great Richard has been. If you'd like to be a guest on Gold Digging, send me a DM and I'm sure we can get you on here and we can hear your rant and obviously your useful bills off of the rant. So thank you very much, Richard. That was a great session.
Nice one. Pleasure.